Good day everyone! Welcome to our ESP class. The course title of our class is English for Journalism. Today, we will be discussing about news writing introduction. If you want to deliver a good and excellent news, you must remember the following. The first thing that you should remember when writing a news is writing a headline. When writing a headline, the most important thing is to make sure it is clear and can be read and understood in a single glance. The trick is to interest, intrigue, and give a real sense of the story to the widest possible audiences without being sensational. Headlines are often short, active sentences such as the imparable old journalistic favorite. Example is The Man Bites Dog. As you can see, the headline is just short but precise, and you can get the information based on the headline. Headlines can be creative with witty differences and wordplay. Supercalifragilistic, Celtic are atrocious was the headline used by The Sun in 2000. When underdogs Inverns, the Caledonian Thistle beat giant Celtics in the third round of the Scottish Cup. Alliteration can also be used when making a headline. The next thing that you should remember when writing a news is writing an intro. Writing an intro, news journalists can call the first sentences of the story to the intro or introduction. The first sentence, you should summarize the story in a nutshell. That means you must summarize or synthesize your story and cover the key information inside that synthesized story of yours. At least 3 of the 6 classic questions, 5 WS questions, and 1 H. These are the following. Who, what, where, when, why, and how should be answered in the intro. Intro should attract the reader's attention. News reporters don't try to build suspense. They do the opposite to give it all away in the first sentences. It can almost seem like starting at the end of the story rather than the beginning. We have here an example class. Example class is: think of an incident where staff in a petrol station are robbed at a gunpoint. You wouldn't write, it had been a quiet day in Mill Road Petrol Station in Codown and the 2 staff members were preparing to lock and go home. Then at 5:20 p.m., 3 masked men arrived and demanded the contents of the till. One assistant ran into the back room to the phone for help. The other assistant initially refused to open the till but finally did so when one of the armed men produced a gun. Instead, you would write, armed robbers raided Codown petrol station and stole 10,000 euros after threatening the staff with a gun this afternoon. The next thing that you should remember is writing a news story. Writing a news story contains subtopics. The first one is the content. Writing a news story has subtopics. The first one is the content. A news story will cover all of the 5 WS and 1 H question. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. News stories class tell the readers what they need to know in the shortest possible way. When writing your news story, be as succinct and precise as possible. When including sources, prioritize those that are most trustworthy, official sources and eyewitnesses. You must also put in mind that eyewitnesses are those that you can rely on because they are there when the incident or the situation happened. The next one is the structure. As you can see, structure has a pyramid. The pyramid contains, at the upper part of the pyramid, it contains the most newsworthy and important information. At the middle part of the pyramid, it contains the details added in descending order of importance. and at the bottom part of the pyramid, finer details and background information. I have here a definition in order for you to understand the pyramid well. Use the inverted pyramid structure for your story. This means placing all the important information first and making sure that the less significant aspects of the story are down and paged on towards the end. As you can see, the most important or trustworthy of the news important information are at the upper part of the pyramid. And at the bottom part of the pyramid is the finer details and background information of the story, which is, you can also call this as the adding information in order to deliver a story, and the audience can understand your story very well too. This structure, referring to the pyramid structure, has been used in newspapers for many years as it makes editing stories easier. If a story is too long and cannot fit in one page, the sub-editor simply chops it from the bottom, knowing that the less important details are being cut out. The structure is helpful as it allows the busy readers to skim the beginning of the stories and find out the core information without having to read the whole story. They will just rely on the structure or the outline of the story. The next one that you should remember, class, is the quotation. Quotations are very important in news stories as they add authenticity and credibility to the story. Quotations capture human responses and add color and atmosphere to the stories. Make sure you attribute them when writing a newsletter. If you shorten your quotations, add ellipses or what we call the 3 points to show that the words have been left out. The next thing that you should remember, class, is the balance. Balance, it is a way best to find several sources for a story and to ensure all views are represented, particularly if you are covering contentious issues. The next one that you should remember when writing a news story is the language. Language. Keep your language as simply as possible. Don't use long, complicated words or sentences. Short words in short sentences are best because they are quick to read and more easily to be understood. Whether you are writing a newspaper story, an outline picture, or a radio script, keep it clear and simple. There are things that you need to avoid when writing a news story or when writing a news. Things to avoid when writing a news story. The first one is bad grammar. Class, be mindful of your grammars because bad grammar ruins everything. Some of the audiences are very good when criticizing things, especially the grammar. So be careful that you have a good grammar when you are writing a story or a news. The next one is sensational languages. We can also call this flowery words. Avoid that, class, because flowery words sometimes leaks the information into something else or into a different feature or to a different story. Keep it factual and accurate. The next thing that you should avoid when writing a news story is speculation. Speculation means don't speculate how someone might be feeling if you don't know. It also means, class, don't assume something. If you are not there, you cannot assume that, oh my God, that person is really hurt because of the incident or what. You must also interview the person that is there when that event happened or the situation happened. That is what we call speculation. Don't assume into something else if you are not present in that situation or in that event. The next one that we must avoid when writing a news is slang words. Class, not everyone can understand slang words. You must keep your words clear, loud, and pure so that everyone can understand what you are saying or what you are writing when you are making a report or when you are delivering a news instead. The next thing that we must avoid is cliches. Okay. Cliche means, class, that don't overreact things. Don't say piping hot when you just mean hot. That means do not Do not exaggerate things. Instead, it turns out into something eventful, or you are making your audience think more than what you are delivering to them or you are saying to them. The next thing that we must avoid when writing a news are jargons or technical languages. The next one is Americanism. Americanism is very important, class, because not everyone in the world or not everybody in this world can understand British English. Maybe some part of the world understands British English, especially those in the Europe section. Example, for the Philippines, most people here in the Philippines are not really familiar with British English. Instead, they are more familiar with the American English. Class, Americanism means, example, say a car and not an automobile. Because not everyone can understand what an automobile is. But if you say it's a car, everyone can understand that it's a car, a literal car. The next one that we must avoid when writing a news is writing acronyms, class. We must avoid acronyms because when you are writing a news, you need to write it all, or you need to write the full detail, because acronyms have a lot of meanings. Example, you wrote the word sex. Acronym is sex. Some other people understood it as sleep, eat, exercise, but some other people understood it as a literal sex or intercourse. That's why, class, you must avoid it, the writing of acronyms when you are writing a news or delivering a news. The last thing that we must avoid when writing a news, class, is misspelling. Don't misspell people's names or getting their names wrong, because in this world, class, there are people who have the same names. It is possible that you are already referring into someone else and not to the person you are referring to on your news. That will be all for today, class. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless.